the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
AM 1420, WBSM presents Spooky South Coast with your hosts Tim Weisberg and Matt Costa.
Good evening. Welcome to Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here. There is no Matt Costa. There is no Matt Moniz. No Silent Assassin. No Science Advisor. Just myself here in the Spooky Studio. Happy to be with you here on another Saturday night where we talk about the paranormal. Sorry about last week. We were supposed to have a great show where we talked about whether or not the paranormal field needs watchdogs and whether or not we need people to be kind of keeping an eye on the paranormal world. And what happened was we came here to the studio. Chris Balzano, our content director, was ready to co-host with us. We had a great night planned. And then when we got here, the brand new board was acting up. It wasn't working correctly. So we had to can the show, and we moved it forward to this week. So we're going to be talking about it tonight. And Chris will join me in just a little bit. And we're also going to have independent researcher and good friend of the program, Dave Francis, along for the ride as well. And you, we want you to chime in and join in. 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420.
How you doing, John?
Hi, Dr. Hoffman.
How you doing? Are you a dad? Are you a dad?
No.
No,
okay.
no.
Well, then I can't wish you Happy Father's. I wish you Happy Father's Day anyway.
Thank you.
I just want to know why you're
shoulder
deciding
injury.
to
I'm a type
interrupt
2
our show.
diabetic. I'm 52. I have a shoulder injury. The doctor said it was an AC sprain type 3 chromium.
Wow, it sounds like he's a doctor for the New York Yankees or something. Like he really defined
I
that
have no idea where that's
for
coming
you.
from. There we go. We'll turn that off then. Oh, you never know what's going to happen on this show. That's the problem is ever since, Matt Costa started not coming in for the show, things have gone out of control. And I've been the one that has to handle everything behind the scenes here, and it doesn't always work out. That's for sure. So as I was saying, we're going to be joined by our good friend, independent researcher Dave Francis. He'll be part of the program, and hopefully there'll be no more jump-ins from other shows. If I can figure out the computer. But again, the numbers are 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420 if you want to join in the discussion. There's been a lot of, I don't want to say controversy this week online, but there's been a lot of buzz this week in various formats about the paranormal field. There's been people who have complained about some of the research tactics and some of the claims of evidence that some paranormal groups have been putting out there lately. There's been others who have claimed the reverse of that, that these people who are condoning what they've done are, I don't want to say stick in the muds, but you get the idea. People who are too tied into the old ways or too tied into a certain belief system. And then today I got into an interesting argument online with some people about whether or not places should be charging for paranormal activity and then have people go in and nothing happens. This particular incident was people paid a lot of money to get into a historic haunt that's been on television shows, and they got there, and when they were done, they had no experiences, they had no evidence, nothing. So I don't think personally that it's the job of a haunted location to say to you that you're going to be provided with a ghost experience, because there's no way that you can guarantee that. But there is something to be said, though, for some of the prices that these places charge for something that they can't guarantee. So why don't we bring Dave in here, and Dave can join in the discussion with us as we talk about some of these. Good evening, Dave. How you doing?
Hey, Tim. How you doing?
Oh, spooktacular. Now, I don't know if you saw this particular discussion I was talking about where there's a haunted location that was unnamed where they were complaining about being charged for an investigation and nothing went on. But, I'm sure you deal a lot with Stone's Public House, And I'm sure there's numerous times when they have people go in there expecting to have a paranormal experience and nothing happens. Of course, these might just be regular patrons, but still, I mean, there's that sense of disappointment when you make the trip there and nothing happens.
Actually, with Stones, that's kind of the opposite because they don't really, as much as they do kind of tout the haunted side of things there, they don't really push letting people come in to investigate or anything like that because they really just don't have manpower. I've actually been approached by people who are willing to. They will pay to get in there. They don't care how much it'll cost them. They want to be able to get in and experience it.
I mean, that's what I mean too. I mean, they might make a trip from 2 hours away to go there because like, oh, it's not that far. And then when they get there, they're kind of disappointed that they didn't have the same experience that they might have seen you talking about on the Travel Channel. Yeah,
but I think any investigator worth their weight in salt is going to know that this stuff doesn't happen on cue anyways. And the ghost chasers, the people that are out there looking for a thrill, it's going to be explained to them. It has to be explained ahead of time. This stuff doesn't happen on cue. We can't make a ghost appear. We can't make you feel or see or hear anything. It's just the way it is. If you're willing to pay, that's great. If you want the experience, that's great. But we can't guarantee stuff's going to happen. That's kind of how I lay at it.
And there does need to be that idea, too, that if you are one of these locations, you can't charge that ghost premium that you think you can charge. I mean, when you go to a place like the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast, for example, you're getting a bed and breakfast experience. Sorry, I stumbled over those words there. But you're having that B&B experience. That's what you're paying for. When you come to a Legend Trips event, you're getting dinner and lectures and the interaction and the learning. That's what you're paying for. None of the business entities involved with the paranormal can guarantee that you're going to have that paranormal experience. So therefore, the price needs to be based on everything else that's included. And I think what some of these places that have the ghost reputation now don't realize is that's the way that it has to be. I mean, you can't be, for example, let me just throw this out there because it's not open to the public. The New Bedford Armory has a notorious reputation for being haunted. They can't be charging people $75 a person to go in there just to hunt ghosts because they can't guarantee it.
Yeah, I think though it's the responsibility of the places that are doing this. At Lizzie Borden's, the events you guys put on, I think just paying for the history and, like you said, being able to spend the night there and everything that goes along with it it totally covers what you're paying for. And again, the people that are going, you're going to have the two kinds. The people that are thrill-seeking and they want something to happen to them and they don't really care to figure out what's happening. They just want it to happen. And then the other folks that may be interested in actually trying to figure out what is happening. And I think those are the people that aren't going to be surprised if nothing happens, whereas the other ones are going to be surprised if nothing happens because they've seen it on TV and everything else.
Well, as somebody who takes a step back from today's paranormal culture, yourself, you're an independent researcher, you've been doing this for a long time, and you're not caught up in the whole celebrity reality television aspect of the paranormal. So from somebody looking at it from your catbird seat, what's your opinion? I mean, is the problem more these locations charging the premium for a place that's haunted, or is the problem in the people who are going there and buying the tickets and having that expectation?
Probably a little bit of both, depending on the locations that are doing that are selling themselves, and also the people that are going to do it. Because you got to figure it in. Ghost hunting is just cool, man. It's where it's at. It's hip. It's on TV. It's all over the place. It's in our face. And I mean, who doesn't want to be able to slick their hair back and put on the tight black T-shirt and rock it with everybody else?
And grow the goatee.
Yep, exactly. And yours is looking pretty nice tonight, by the way.
It's getting kind of bushy, but and for everybody that doesn't know about that, that's kind of the inside joke. John Tenney runs a website about the goatees of the paranormal. And it's kind of become like an in-joke that so many of the male investigators all grow the goatees. But, that's because, us fat guys, we grow the goatees to hide our double chin. I had one way before it was cool. So, a goatee, that is, not the double chin. But so that's kind of the thing is I think a lot of people who've been in the field for a long time are starting to resent a lot of the newcomers to the field and the reasons why that they're getting into it. And I think that is reflected in how they investigate. I think these newcomers aren't exactly on the inside here when it comes to how to conduct an investigation. They're just doing what they see on television and repeating it, and that's what's that's what's making the hair stand up on the back of the necks of the seasoned investigators, because it's basically to them, I don't want to say it's a slap in the face in the work that they've done, but it's kind of like it's going to be a lot like the Major League Baseball players who have to deal with, the cocky minor leaguer who comes up in September, who thinks that he's going to come up there and shock the world and become, the next big thing when, you haven't even faced a real live Major League pitcher yet.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing, too, is just with the proliferation of it all, you get these people that are coming in, and within the first 6 months that they're out there, they've gone and they've got a blog talk radio show, and, they're hosting that once a week, and they're throwing everything out there. And eventually the term expert comes out, and, these people are suddenly experts in the field of ghost hunting. And exactly what constitutes an expert in the field of ghost hunting?
Well, apparently it's how many TV shows and radio shows you've been on.
Yeah, how many people are viewing them? Yeah, exactly.
No, it's not how many people are viewing them.
And, the resentment, I think where it comes from is when you've been seasoned a little bit and, you start to really understand and break things down and get away from the fanciful side of things, and you try to kind of educate people. I really hate to bring the topic up right off the bat because I think you've been saving it, but let's take orb photos, for example. Mm-hmm. You can go onto Facebook, the web, anywhere, and click onto a group site and take a look, and you'll see pictures of the gravestones with the orbs in them, and they're in all the photos of the old houses and everything else. And we all pretty much have a good idea exactly what's causing that. I mean, it's explained. Even the photographic sites explain it. But as a seasoned person, I like to go in and honestly give an appraisal, especially when they ask about it. They put these pictures out there and say, "What do you think?" And you respond saying, "Well, it looks like dust or moisture or a bug."
And it gets them all worked up. Well, we're running out of time here in this hour, but we'll come back after the news and we'll talk all about it. We'll continue speaking with Dave Francis. We'll also bring in Chris Balzano. We're going to be talking about the paranormal. Does it need its watchdogs? So call in with your thoughts. Watch us on Spooky TV at SpookySouthcoast.com. The numbers are right there to call in. The chat room is right there to interact. You can also email spookycrew at SpookySouthcoast.com with your thoughts. We'll be right back coming up after the news with more here on Spooky South Coast.
First with local news, talk, and sports. This is WBSM New Bedford, AM 1420. WBSM, a Cumulus station.
From ABC News, I'm Chuck Severson. Just outward of an arrest of the man wanted in a deadly armored car heist at a university in Western Canada that left 3 armed guards dead. The arrest in Washington State, says ABC's Jackie Rosen.
According to Edmonton police, Travis Baumgartner was caught shortly after crossing the U.S. border into Washington State. He's been charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. The 21-year-old had been the subject of a Canada-wide manhunt since Friday. Earlier on Saturday, his mother Sandy released a statement pleading for her son to turn himself in and, quote, end this without further bloodshed.
More witnesses say the noise was deafening at the concert stage collapse hours ago at Toronto's Downs View Park. It happened as crews were setting up for tonight's Radiohead concert. 1 worker was killed, another critically hurt.
It just sounded like a lot of thunder and like sheet metal just like falling. It was really crazy.
Some fans had already arrived. Alexandra Halbert was working nearby in the park.
It collapsed forward, so the top scaffolding and the sides came down and went over the front.
The weather was sunny and pretty calm. No word on a cause of the collapse. Crews have now determined that the huge wildfire in northern Colorado has destroyed at least 181 homes, the most by any fire in state history. The fire is 20% contained.
The week-old fire west of Fort Collins, Colorado, has now burned more than 54,000 acres, or 85 square miles. Thanks to the weather, higher humidity, and low winds, the fire is not burning as intensely as it has been, but hundreds of people are still evacuated and many homes are still threatened. Clayton Sandell, ABC News, Denver.
224 homes have been destroyed by a southern New Mexico fire, which is now little more than half contained, officials say. While supporters cheered likely Republican presidential nominee Mitt Romney in Cornwall, Pennsylvania, these protesters waited for him at a convenience store in Quakertown, but Romney changed plans. So we never got a chance to hear that dog barking in rhythm with the chants. You're listening to ABC News.
Mark Twain once said that the secret of success was making your vocation your vacation. And I can't think of anything I'd rather do than save folks money on their car insurance with Geico. I'm proud to have helped millions of drivers save and save big. Hundreds of dollars a year. Come to think of it, my bosses say I should take a vacation. I'll probably go to the beach, get a little sun, see if anyone needs to save money on their car insurance. There I go again.
For a free rate quote, visit geico.com to see how much you could save. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
The Home Depot has made a special buy on the new Hunter Fairhaven indoor ceiling fan with remote control, just $99.88. How's that for a breath of fresh savings? People have looked up to Hunter for over 100 years. Now you can look up to one for under $100. Thanks to the exclusive Hunter Fairhaven ceiling fan with remote control, just $99.88. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. Valid through July 29th, U.S. only. See store for details.
Before he's off to an economic summit in Mexico, President Obama's back overnight in Chicago with his wife and daughters in their first visit home as a family in 2 years. They've caught up with friends and attended a backyard wedding of top White House advisor Valerie Jarrett's daughter, a block from the Obama home. Out of a job, a Texas teacher who could face
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hello, Chris? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Wow, big delay.
Confessions of a potentially perfect pet, brought to you by the Dr. Kids Double.
I might look like an adult, person who could possibly be a parent, but I have no idea if I talk like one. And And everyone knows that if you want to be a parent,
Hey, what's up, my
good when you
friends?
say things
What's
like,
up?
Don't make me turn this car around, or because I said so, or don't make me come back there. I don't even really know what those things mean, but I know that I actually believed my parents when they said them to me. How did they manage to sound so convincing? Here we go. Don't make me come back there. Ugh, no, that's not tough enough at all. Kids can sense weakness. Don't make me come back there. Ooh, yeah, that's better. In fact, that kind of sounded like my dad. Weird.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to listen to you practice your dad voice. Call 1-888-200-4005 or visit adoptuskids.org for more information. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
Thank you, and we're back. You know, when it comes to fighting crime, he's never going to roll over. He's McGruff the crime dog.
Roll over. You're okay, Joy.
Thanks.
And I got 2 words to make your neighborhood safer.
Uh-huh.
Coffee cake.
Ah, the old poison coffee cake. The cook takes a bite, falls down to the ground.
No, it's for your neighbors.
You want to poison your neighbors?
No, never.
Oh, thank goodness.
No, for 25 years, I've been giving tips about preventing crime. One of them is to invite people over for a cup of coffee and share the problems you see on your street and what to do about them.
That's great.
You can invite your local police officer to help, too.
You know, I hear they're very fond of donuts.
Oh, that's just a myth.
Oh, well, I'd come to your doghouse for coffee cake in a safer neighborhood.
Now you're talking. You can cut down on crime by not just locking your door, but opening up to your neighbors.
Still, a 10-pound bundt cake dropped on a bad guy's foot could help.
It couldn't hurt. And going to weprevent.org for other tips could help, too.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, Crime Prevention Coalition of America, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
Doctors are discouraging patients from taking B vitamins like folic acid, B6, and B12, which are known to
Welcome to Spooky Southcoast. Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
AM 1420, WPSN presents Spooky South Coast with your hosts Tim Weisberg and Matt Costa.
All right, welcome back. Hour number 2 of Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here. No silent assassin, no science advisor, just me. That's all you get tonight, just me. And we are here to talk with you about the paranormal. We did speak a little bit the first hour, or the first 15 minutes, with one of tonight's guests, Dave Francis, independent paranormal researcher from here in Massachusetts. And also we have now joining us on the line, we have Chris Balzano, who is our show's content director, and he is the one who got this idea for a show rolling, and we talked about it a little bit on Spooky Crossroads, which is our new Wednesday night program that Chris hosts on Spooky TV at SpookySouthCoast.com, which, by the way, is the place where you can watch what's going on in the studio tonight and join in the chat room as the show's going on, although you're not going to see much because it's just me in the studio, and I have the camera pointed at me. I kind of feel like you, Chris, where the only camera tonight is on myself, but that's because you willingly cut me out Wednesday night.
Hey, I switched to a slide. How about that? I put Desmond and Penelope on there instead of you, so don't be too offended.
The constant. He is the constant, even on this program.
He is. As we were starting that show, I was just thinking of the great line. I will win this race for love, and I will do this show for love.
Well,
didn't work out that way.
Yeah, well, we thank you. We love you, too. And also, we have Dave still on the line, and I know that we've been trying. Dave first appeared on the show a long time ago, and we've been trying to get him back on ever since. He calls in from time to time, but we finally roped him in, so good job on that, Chris.
Well, it wasn't too hard. Dave's a great guy, and actually we wanted to do the show last week, and we got postponed, but it's still some interesting things, and I think Dave and I while there's a mutual respect between the two of us, we differ on so many issues, and yet, like, you know, as a model for what other people should be doing, where I think we're able to talk about them and talk about what we disagree with without attacking each other. So, you know, those of you who are expecting any blood tonight in any of these discussions should, you know, tune into something on Cinemax. They've got a lot of blood on Cinemax.
I just hung Dave up. He thought that I hung him up, and then I didn't, and now I did. So.
Okay, well, now he's not on the line. We can talk bad about him.
No, he's still listening in the chat room, so that's not going to work. But he'll call right back in. We were talking in the first 15 minutes about some of these locations out there. It came up on Facebook today where some of these locations are charging money for people to come in and investigate, which, you know, that's no surprise. But these particular investigators were taking exception with the fact that they paid a lot of money to get in there. And what ended up happening was nothing happened. So,
right.
And we were talking about how you can't really guarantee that. Maybe some investigators don't understand that, or maybe some investigators feel that if they're paying this premium and it's a place where there's a lot of activity going on, that they need to have it happen. I mean, you've dealt with a lot of haunted locations. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that you're paying for the experience. You're paying for the experience of being in the place. Like Dave said, if there's history connected to it, you're paying to touch that history. You're paying to investigate. You're not paying to get results. So I think that it would be disingenuous if people were had that on their minds as running a paranormal place. Then you feel like you have to do something, which leads to fakery, which leads to all kinds of things. I mean, I've been on investigations where absolutely nothing happened. It doesn't mean that it wasn't a good investigation. It doesn't mean that there wasn't evidence to review afterwards. It didn't mean that invalidated the place as being potentially not haunted. So, I mean, there's so many other things involved in those events, and I'm not even just speaking of the things that you guys were talking about, like the discussions or the meeting different people you respect in the field, or dinner, or a sleeping experience, or a lecture. I'm talking just about being in the field, maybe with other people that you can glean something from, maybe just being in the field and working at your craft.
Yeah, don't forget that people pay, lots of money for courses in how to investigate for the paranormal. And when you go to one of these types of events that we do, for example, you're getting that opportunity. Or if you go to, a specific lecture, and that's something I know we're going to get into in a little while, is the idea of teaching and certifying people in these things. But, you're getting someone else's experience. You're paying for someone else's, I don't want to say expertise because we don't like to use that word, but someone else's, well, I guess it is an expertise. It's an expertise in the experience of, not in the knowledge of, if you get what I'm saying.
Maybe the best kind of, example I can give, kind of parallel I can give, is if you go on a whale watch.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go on a whale watch, you pay a ton of money. You go out there, there's an expectation that you're going to experience something. You're generally put in the hands of someone who is qualified at finding what you need to find. And yet sometimes that whale just doesn't come.
Right.
But there are so many other things that are, usually the ones that I've been on, like on school field trips and stuff, the driver, the captain of the boat is usually very talkative and talking about experiences other people have had, and, maybe even a little bit of education on the topic, and people talking about, oh yeah, and of course everyone's got their fish story that they want to tell, and when they went fishing, and and so the entire thing is an experience in and of itself, regardless of whether you see the whale. If you see the whale, which is your expectation, it's amazing, but that doesn't mean that you should demand your money back if you don't see a whale. And so, for me, it's all about the experience as a whole, not just like, okay, well, what can I take out of that was ghostly? Because at the end of that investigation, you still haven't evaluated your evidence. And if you went last night and today you're mad, that probably tells me that you haven't spent enough time going over your evidence to even evaluate whether you did experience something. You just didn't, experience it with your live senses. So, there's a whole bunch of different things, and too often we are looking at the end result and not the the process that's going on.
Sure. And Dave, you're someone who is pretty active in communicating with people online who are these watchdogs that we're talking about, people who do get involved in things. And I know that you've done it yourself a bit. Of course, you and I started the Paranormal Peer Review page on Facebook for evidence, and we've been trying to get people to post evidence up there for people to break down, to dissect, to make suggestions about what could possibly be misconstrued as evidence, or even if it's just to say great. But we're not going to just pat you on the back and say, great job for any piece of evidence. I mean, we're going to kind of be critical and give it a critical eye, because that's what it needs. And I'm sure that you're finding, because I know that you're trying to get people to post on the page, and I know that you're seeing these other pages where people are posting evidence. It must be frying your patience to see that, that's not what they want to do. They want to put up a picture of an orb and have 5,000 people tell them, I see it too.
Oh, no, exactly. And I think that the Paranormal Peer Review page was actually a great litmus test for things, because right off the bat, nobody posted anything, and it's kind of continued that way. Where people are posting things are pretty much out in the open, where you're going to get the opinion. And it looks to me the most of the time it's from people who want to believe that this stuff is real, and they see whatever they're told that they're supposed to see.
It's a matter, too, I think, in some regards, is they either want to post it up to people that don't know any better, or for people that are like-minded such as themselves. If you go on, and we experience it, there's certain pages that if you go on there and you put out your thoughts on somebody's evidence, and you're telling them, that's definitely your camera strap, or that's definitely, the light reflecting off that piece of metal that I see in the back corner of that picture. You start doing that, then you're labeled as a bully. You're labeled as somebody who's out there just to discredit them, and you're labeled as jealous.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And especially if you ask them any questions, if you ask a simple question, how do you know what your camera does? Do you know how it works? Or give them a photography term, and it gets thrown right back in your face. All the attention gets taken off what you were trying to do, which is to help educate a little bit and give an honest response, and gets turned into a fight. Is basically what happens. I've learned to just stop posting at that point and to stop responding.
Well, and that's the big question here is if that's going to be the result. Chris, you and I talk about this quite a bit. If that's the end result, then why? Why do we bother? Why do we try to help those in the field if they're not going to be willing to take that help?
I think that you should go into it. If you're the person responding to a posting, I think you go into it with the best intentions of the 10 that I respond to, one will get through, and you can start a dialogue on something, and someone will respond back in a positive way. I think that if you go into it thinking that anyone you deal with online is sane, you're going to be disappointed in anything. Yeah. But I think that if you go to it from I'm going to respond to this, it might be the person who's not, who watches the site, who looks at the evidence, who looks at the responses, who's genuinely trying to learn, but who is too intimidated because they're newer in the field, or they just are not articulate. And they're like, oh, I don't want to respond to that, but, I kind of liked what he just said. I'm not going to support him, but I kind of like what he just said. That's kind of why you do it.
Right.
It's for the people who, not only the person who you're responding to, but also the person. I won't respond to any evidence posted online. I'll only respond to things that are sent to me.
Well, that's probably a good way to play it. But if I was going to respond, if I was going to offer a critique of somebody's evidence, just randomly, they like for example Facebook, sometimes pictures pop up in your news feed of people putting this up as evidence, and check out this great EVP we got, or this great photo that we got, and I may be tempted to comment on it, and if I do, and if I am kind of breaking down what it is that they're posting and trying to explain to them that they might be mistaken, I'm not expecting them to write back and be like, well, thank you for pointing that out, now I've learned something. I'm expecting them to maybe just ignore me, but then take that under consideration for the next time they get a photo like that. Or maybe consideration for that particular photo. You know, maybe they'll stop and think, gee, I wonder, maybe I did have the camera strap on my camera.
Sometimes the best thing to do is to, the teaching term we use, put on kids' gloves, in terms of you phrase it as a question.
Sure.
Like more of, is there, where was the camera strap? Or, hey, the kind of camera that you have, does it have a strap? Do you usually put it in your hand? Questions that are designed to not, get people violent, but rather to get people
sure.
No, it's almost even kind of fooling them into giving you the answer that you're looking for. And be like, oh, if you don't do that, then.
But I mean, I don't even care if they don't respond. It's when they come back at you with the vitriol. It's got to be, anger for you to even question what they're calling evidence. Here I went out on my first investigation and I got this picture of a demon. No, I'm sorry. That's your reflection in the mirror. How dare you? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm the person that's been on dozens of investigations and been doing this for years. But you're the guy that just went out on your first investigation, so you must be right. And that's
right. Well,
that's what.
And those people are generally kind of short-lived anyway. So you do what you can for people, and then kind of retreat from the rest.
I think Dave might argue that point that they're short-lived. I think it just breeds that mentality. And it just, you find one person who has that approach, and they just seem to find other people that have that approach. And I'm speaking specifically to this one page that Dave and I saw that is what led to the formation of Paranormal Peer Review.
Well, now I just feel like, you're talking about a TV show I haven't watched or something like that. I feel totally out of the loop.
Well,
but I'll take your word for it.
David definitely got your haunches up when you saw it.
Oh, no, it does, yeah. I think one of the things that really kind of made me step back and laugh was the age of the person that was doing it and looking at the years that they've been spending in the field. I think they were 26 years old, and they've been doing this for the last 19 years. So they've been doing it since they were 7 years old. It's amazing.
And I believe this person was also a reverend doctor.
Yeah, a reverend doctor.
Which, that definitely
astronaut.
Yeah.
I mean, the very first thing that I look for when I'm evaluating a picture is, has it been tampered with?
Mm-hmm.
So I won't look at anything unless I can kind of get to that first level of has it been tampered with by seeing whether the file they sent me has a camera directory on it. And if it doesn't have a camera directory on it, and they say, it was a digital photo or something like that, then boom, I'm done. I'm done. I'm sorry. I can't look at it. Can you give me a copy of the original? And that's, or we'll explain why this is, citing, this is not giving me any property evidence, information.
Well, usually you can usually throw it away when they have the, copyright 2012 Acme Paranormal at the bottom of the picture. That's usually enough right there for me, because that means that it's already been through some sort of photo altering program.
I think that people who are serious aren't doing that, aren't posting stuff up there with no with no way to check the very source of it, and so just by the mere fact that they're doing it, you're kind of like, well, how much do you want to spit into the wind?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I said spit into the wind because it's Spooky Southcoast.
Oh.
I would have said something different if it was the other show.
Right.
Yes.
The other show, we can say that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Spooky Crossroads, Wednesday, 10 o'clock, Spooky TV, SpookySouthcoast.com. But, I mean, the idea here, though, is that the fact that there are people out there that are, some are uneducated, and uneducated in the field, I should say. I'm not calling them idiots, but some don't know enough in the paranormal field quite yet. And some of them are outright faking evidence. I mean, there's all these different degrees of people trying to get the attention put on themselves for whatever reason. And that's breeding the idea that there needs to be somebody out there to kind of protect the field from those people. And it goes back to pretty much any kind of profession. There's always that old guard, and there's always those who know what they're doing, who, they kind of form that barrier to some of the newcomers, and they let a select few in. Yeah, it could be everything from, the medical field to professional sports. When the young people come in, they've got to earn their stripes. And I think that this is the one field, or the field has reached the point now where, they don't feel like they have to earn their stripes. They're in it, and, you just started a paranormal group, so therefore you're equal to Jason and Grant, you're equal to John Zaffis, you're equal to the Warrens. You know what I mean?
Right.
And especially where you can buy all the same equipment online. I mean, a lot of it now is on a discount price, so you can have all the same equipment, and you throw in a black T-shirt, like I said, and you're good to go.
Yeah. The black T-shirts, though, like I'm rocking right now, those are available at SpookySouthcoast.com. So if you don't have your own black T-shirts to wear on your investigations, you can wear the same ones the Spooky Crew wear. But hey, plug every opportunity I can get. But my problem with it, though, is that you do have those who have become kind of curmudgeon-y about the paranormal. You do have those that are unwilling to accept anything that these, new up-and-coming groups have found. And because they might not have the same procedures that, the older generation might follow or the more experienced generation might follow, then therefore it has to be disregarded. And we're actually doing a disservice to the field by doing that, because somebody could have a great capture, but because they can't write you a full-out lab report about the circumstances in which it was captured, many people would just readily dismiss it. And you can't do that.
Well,
yeah,
I'm
one of the things that I really take to heart when I read these sites and I'm looking at these watchdogs is, what is their basis for, not what makes them an authority, that's a whole different argument.
Sure.
Like what makes them able to evaluate other people. Let's put that to one side for a second. But what is the standard that they're using? So a lot of these sites that I've looked at, I don't know if you want me to mention any of them by name, because I don't mind, but I don't know if you...
No, I don't think we need to do that.
Okay. Their reason for discrediting a group or discrediting a website is based on a different belief system in the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
And so that to me is the absolute worst way to go about it. Because if a group is saying up front that they think that they're a group of spirit mediums who do this, and you would put them out there as being frauds because you don't believe in spirit mediums, well, that's really kind of isolating an entire aspect of people who are in the paranormal. Or if someone is saying, here's a whole bunch of evidence we got, and you're saying, well, no, because I don't believe that kind of evidence is right, or that kind of evidence is valid. Not whether the evidence itself is, but that kind of evidence. Esoteric evidence, for example, or something that you get from something that's non-electronic based. It's like if someone gets an entire communication via the Ouija board, and you post that up as evidence of something that paranormal is happening there. All right. Well, you know what? The people say they do that. The people are honest with what they're doing. You can evaluate whether or not that's a valid thing. And just because you give them a chance to kind of fight back, you're automatically putting someone on the defensive by putting them on one of these lists. And those lists are growing, and there's a ton of people out there doing this kind of thing. And it's like, well, wait a minute. You're only saying that because you don't believe in Ouija board evidence or talking board evidence. You're only doing this because you don't believe in psychic mediums, right? And then, that's kind of the first level that I'd love to have you guys respond to.
Well, Dave, I mean, you're I don't want to say involved with a lot of these groups, but you pay attention to what a lot of these watchdog sites and groups have to say. As somebody who tries to maintain kind of third-party independence, you are aware of when there is some of this stuff going on. And of course, you posting earlier today on a page, or actually yesterday, on a page about some posts, and we were trying to get that person to come on the show and talk about it. But I do have to ask you this: of all the ones that you follow and all the ones that you pay attention to, I mean, a lot of them just seem like they've got a grudge for one reason or another. It's not just the fact that they're seeing themselves in an overseer role, but it's more that they're bearing a grudge for some reason.
I think it's the level of involvement and, just how serious some of this stuff can get. And I hate to say it that way, but we have to look at it that way. I was going to mention when you guys were speaking earlier, let's take one of these watchdog groups, as you so call it, and we kind of look at how they're going after this one person. This one person's page, they're posting all this stuff, and In the description, it says that they went into this person's house and determined that the house was full of dark energy and evil and demons, and they did a clearing and released the spirits, and everything was fine. And this is the evidence. And to go, a lot of the times what we'll do is we'll go in and just start with a standard. Hey, I noticed that this photo has orbs here. This is an explanation for this, and immediately you're banned from the group or knocked off of it. And sometimes, like the serious questions that have to be addressed, and I can see where a lot of people get angry and really press the issue is, did the people that went in take the time to kind of step back and say, okay, maybe there's a black mold problem in the attic that's creating the problem. And when you go into a person's home and tell them that all this stuff's going on, and you leave at the end of it, and they think that everything's all set, but in all actuality, they're still breathing the same mold, or the heater's leaking carbon monoxide, and none of that was ever looked into. There really has to be somebody kind of policing what's going on to a degree, I think, because people can actually, people can get hurt, get sick, and it's not really spreading honest information.
Well, now we're getting into the idea, though, that look at some of these other fields, okay? Look at some of the other professions, the other careers that are out there. There are governing bodies and certain rules and regulations that they must follow in order to do their job. So, if you're having this problem in your house and you call in an exterminator, and an exterminator finds that there are no bugs, so hopefully that they're an honest exterminator and they're not just going to spray a bunch of stuff and charge $300 anyway. But if they find that there is no problem and that it is, say, a black mold issue, then they're going to tell you that. And then you can hire the proper person to come and take care of that. Or if you think you're having, some sort of plumbing problem and it turns out to be, the electric circuits going into your water system, they're going to tell you, I can't do that. You got to call an electrician. And there's a lot of this that's regulated by their governing bodies. We don't have that in the paranormal. So could there be some sort of governing body, some sort of regulation to follow? Could that make a difference? And if so, how do we create it?
I think that's the million-dollar question. A lot of people are talking about it, and a lot of good points come up. But, because we're going after and actively searching for things that we just don't know about, how do we start that whole ball rolling? Where does the science begin? Is there any science right now that can actually help us set these guidelines down?
But you have to get everybody to agree on those guidelines. I mean, I've got to tell you, we've been doing this show. We're in our 7th year now. And every year there's somebody else that wants to step forward and create this all-encompassing, just the idea of standards and procedures for the paranormal. And they put everything they have into it, and they become immediately frazzled. And so many of them have actually left the field because they couldn't find what it is that they were trying to do. They couldn't put it all together. And it's just, I don't know if it's going to be possible because there's no other, all these other fields that are out there. There's not 100,000 wannabe dentists out there just showing up at people's houses and drilling their teeth. Yeah. There isn't 100,000 wannabe plastic surgeons in there trying to mess with your face in your living room.
Yeah, and I mean, if I got a pain in my right side and it's getting worse and worse, I really want to know what the guy that's going to be looking at me is going to know what an appendix is and how to look for that and maybe get the problem fixed correctly. But you're so right. I think one thing I remember seeing in the past, it was Penn State was started a board of governors or something online on their online forum. And I tell you, I could never get into it. As much as I posted on their forum, I just couldn't be a part of it. So there was one segment of people that were trying to put together rules and regulations, but not getting that broad spectrum and ideas from all across the board, from all the different type of research.
I was going to ask you, if it was Penn State, was it tied into PRS?
Oh, it was them. It was their site, their forum, their online forum.
But then the question becomes, well, who the hell are you to be the ones to decide what they should be?
And then that's when the fighting, that's when the arguing, the fighting, and the pushing and shoving starts. And I lost track of that site because of that in the long run. But I mean, off the bat, it was a lot of questioning. Why aren't we allowed to see what's going on? Why aren't you posting what you're talking about?
See, the way that it has to work, and this is something that I've been trying to, push for a few years now, is I'm a sports writer, okay, and I'm not a member of some of these Basketball Writers Association, Pro Football Writers Association. I'm not a member of those, mainly because I don't like all the politics involved in them, and I don't want somebody kind of being a watchdog on what I'm writing. That's what my editors are for. But, maybe we need that sort of organization. Maybe we need a membership-driven organization, and then those members can vote on a board of governors, and then that board of governors can be the ones charged with being able to create these rules and regulations. And then at least it would become the most accepted body. Because, the baseball writers select the Hall of Fame baseball players. And it's a very controversial role, but it's accepted. It's what goes on. And so maybe that's how it has to be for us. Maybe we need to start that for the purpose of being able to at least have an open membership to anybody who can prove that they have, say, for example, 5 years of service in the field. And if you can give us, documented cases going back 5 years, then you can be a member, pay a membership fee, because there has to be dues involved. And then once you are a member, then when you have a certain amount of time as a member, you become a voting member. You know what I mean? And maybe that's the way to do it, because it becomes, at least then, legitimate to the people who are willing to join on board. So therefore, you became a part of it, so now you're agreeing to follow these rules and regulations.
No, I agree with you. And this goes in totally, say, the direction of where do we stand if there's a group that's going out right now and charging people money to go into their house and offer these services. And this type of group or oversight would be excellent, because we'd be able to take a look at what's going on and say, hey, you actually have no case study going on whatsoever. We've been able to police your website a little bit here. We see some photos and this and that, but really nothing to support what you're saying you're doing and why you're charging people.
Right.
Or the information that you're passing on, too.
And being part of that organization would give you the cachet to be able to go and do that.
Yeah, I just think it can be a slippery slope, though, because honestly, I don't think we're any farther ahead than we were, say, 100 years ago. It's a lot of new terms, a lot of new shiny toys that have come out to help us do this stuff, but nobody's really kind of sat down and studied this stuff in that type of arena. We've got the parapsychologists and stuff that do it, that are taking looks at things. And I even like some of the skeptic groups, like Randy and stuff like that, on some of the stuff they've done, where they've actually done studies, and you get something tangible to look at.
But it's almost like, it's almost like it's an empty pursuit outside of wanting to prove to yourself what goes on, because you're not going to be able to prove it to everybody else. No matter what evidence you get, you're never going to be able to shock the world and have definitive proof of the paranormal. It's going to make everybody say, okay, yes, go surreal. It's just not going to happen, and you have to accept that. So you're on your own journey to find what you need to answer your own questions. And then kind of beyond that, you're just running around in circles, chasing your tail, and gathering more of the same.
No, exactly.
I really have to disagree with you guys on this. I think that it's almost impossible to get regulation on this, and I don't think it's a desirable thing. Because, if you take a step back and look at the personalities involved, just say, okay? Mm-hmm. So I would never join anything like that, personally. And you might have other people who would be, let's take John Zappis, just because he's, famous.
Right.
I don't think that he would be willing to be like, what? I'm going to be, what? Okay, so we can admit that there are going to be highly qualified people that are not going to join for whatever reason, be they political reasons or ideological reasons or whatever. So imagine if they wanted to apply, they'd be able to fit all the criteria. Like, oh, no way I would do this. Like, why would I? No, I'm going to have these people looking at everything that I do, and I can only do what they're saying, and they're voting on the things. No, that's not my gig. I'm not going to do it. Which means that if the only tangible benefit from this is that someone who has a paranormal experience who's looking to understand what's going on, they think they have a ghost in their house.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to, let's say over time, 10 years down the road, think of this as a an authority, and then maybe they're only going to pick from people that are from that pool. Well, that means that they're probably not going to be able to get all of the really great investigators, because this thing, which is an authority, which has all these other political things that are attached to it, is being deemed an authority, but not this person who's actually an expert, who might be more qualified than the members of it.
But
so you're creating a system where people are being deemed as being good for amount of time in the field, or being able to prove, okay, so I've been doing this for 15 years, but what would I be able to possibly bring to the table that says that I've done this? Like, how would I qualify? I have tapes of interviews. I've got some evidence. Is that proof? Did I prove to you that I deserve to be in the field? Not to mention the fact that, there are some people who might be 4 years in. And I'm only using the specific numbers you gave me because they would try to create some kind of criteria, and there would always be people that either would be outside of that criteria who would still be qualified, who might not be able to get their opinions heard, or people who, for whatever reason, don't want to join. And then they're deemed as somehow less because they don't want to join this political group.
Well, I mean, whatever. In any field, though, that's the case. I mean, there's always people who are highly qualified who don't choose to get involved in it, but that doesn't delegitimize the governing body or the overseeing body that's there anyway. It's just that was their choice. And if that's their choice and they suffer as a result of that, well, then maybe they made the wrong choice. Maybe their expertise should have been a part of it.
I mean, if you think of, like the film industry, the people who have snubbed the Directors Guild, for example, for every Richard Ramirez that won't do it, for whatever reason, it was a very specific reason why he dejoined. There are maybe dozens of people who are not well known, and so they get caught like in the underdrift. You don't know that they don't know that you're missing them, and so therefore, you don't go see their movies and try getting a movie made and have it be released that way.
Well, but here's the thing. How is having this, we'll say, governing body, how is having this group and then having people outside of that with more experience any different than what we have now? I mean, now we have the Taps family, and if you're the Taps family, you're supposedly golden, and people should be going to you first, but you've got tons of people who haven't even bothered to try to be in the Taps family because they don't agree with the Taps philosophy, and, do you think that they're suffering? Do you think that they're not getting calls because the Taps family exists?
Yeah, I do.
No.
Yeah, I think they are. I think some people, because you have to go from what you know, and if what you know is what is visible on TV, and that's who you think the authority is, then that's what you're going to do. And so I think that's to try to, anytime you're going to try to be like, all right, we're going to do this, but we're going to be as broad as possible. The decisions are going to have to be made over whether you're going left or you're going right on this situation. And anytime you get a governing body who thinks that they have, more information than anyone else, then decisions are going to have to be made, or else why have it at all? And as soon as decisions are made, you're starting to disclude some ideas and some people who are not worthy of being discluded. And so now what we're doing is we're establishing a system where either people outside of the field don't recognize it, but who cares that it exists anyway, or you have people who are thinking that they're the end-all, be-all because it now is a certified thing. I mean, you're not allowed to go to a certain doctor or get, for example, like a holistic remedy covered under your insurance because they don't necessarily feel that is. Is that right? Is that appropriate? Is that, like you pay your premiums, you pay your money, you want to go to it. You can't go to it. And so you're starting to disclude people. And I think when you do that, you're starting to lose the open-mindedness that makes the field great when it's great.
It's been a long time since great. I hate to say it. I hate to say it, though, but it's been a long time since great.
What happens is that these people have megaphones, but they're not being heard by anyone that's other than ghost people. I mean, no one that's experiencing a ghost for the very first time tonight and is looking to try to figure out what the heck is going on in their life is saying, well, I better call the paranormal bullies. I better call a group to see what's going on, whether their opinion is valid or not. So what you have is really just a bunch of people who are arguing internally within the field, and it doesn't have much exposure. So what benefit is it possibly having for anybody?
Well, unfortunately, I mean, the way that the world works now, the most popular methodology and the most popular authority opinion is going to be whoever has the highest Google search ranking. You know, when you type in ghosts, whoever comes up first, they obviously must be the ones that know the most. And that's just kind of the society we live in. But what do you people out there think? Give us a call with your thoughts. You know, what is it that you would need is your criteria? 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. You can also jump in the chat room at Spooky TV at SpookySouthcoast.com, and we got a bunch of people in there right now with the conversation rolling. And one of the things that I wanted to touch upon, and I don't know, you know, we've got about 10 minutes left here in the show, but the idea that there can be certification in the paranormal, and this is something that caused a little bit of a stir this week, Chris. So why don't you, Chris and Dave, we had this discussion on Spooky Crossroads, and in the first episode, and I mean, what are your thoughts on this idea of offering certification?
Well, I mean, you know, I think it's important to know what you're being certified in. So there are some courses that just certify that you've finished the course, that you've completed the course, and you know you've done all the work involved.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up to, I guess, the people who are involved, the people who are relying on this, to realize just what that certification means. You know, so I don't think that you can become, you know, certified in investigating the paranormal, nor if you get any kind of certification should you be able to, like, well, see, I've taken this course and I can do it. But that's kind of on the onus of the people who are asking for the investigators.
Exactly. I mean, that's...
You know, so it's the responsibility, and that's horrible to say because they are perhaps the most, once again, not in a negative way, the most ignorant to what is going on, and they might actually put some weight into that. So now, you know, we're saying someone can't be certified. You know, it all has to do with the intention of the person who is doing it, and what the certification is. What is it of?
Here's the way to look at it, though. I mean, there's a number of courses out there that offer certification, and you know, there's some that we've discussed here. There's some that we've discussed publicly here on the show. You know, they charge a fee to take the course, and at the end, you're a certified, whether they use the term ghost hunter, paranormal investigator, whatever term they want to use, but you've been certified that at the end of this course. But I don't think I've ever heard anybody who offers these certifications say, and that will make you exclusive, and they should never hire anybody that doesn't have this certification. You know, Lloyd Auerbach's been offering certification forever in ghost hunting and in paranormal investigation. And I don't think I've ever heard him say to people, all right, anybody out there, if you're having a problem with a ghost, make sure you call one of my certified students and nobody else. It's just that they're giving you this certificate of completion, essentially.
Right. But I think some people who are doing it are posing it as, you know, and now you are a qualified paranormal investigator.
Well, sure, maybe you are. After taking the course, you are a qualified paranormal investigator. When you went into it and you didn't have any experience or any knowledge of it, you weren't qualified. Now you've been instructed and you were qualified. Whether or not you just showed up and went on an investigation with somebody who knew what they were doing and showed you the ropes and said, okay, now go out and make your own place into the world, or whether you sat in a classroom and took 14 hours of study on it, you know, now you're qualified. You weren't before, now you are. I don't see a problem with that.
Well, right. I think, like I said, it's on the people who are getting the investigations who have the least amount of information and who are maybe dazzled by that. Because, I mean, you know, I can print one out right now, right? Right now, anyone who's read my book, feel free to email me and I will send you a certification. Because if you went from page 1 to page whatever, you know enough now to be an investigator. But that doesn't mean that they're actually qualified to do it. Once again, nor do I think anyone is in a position to qualify anyone to do something. I think that there are, what I'm even more baffled by are investigative groups who do the same thing, who say, we'll take you in, and until you've done this, you are not a real investigator. We will give you our group's certification that you now have, the power to investigate. And it's a very powerful thing for people who don't know what it is. And so it's kind of, once again, depending on what you're certifying them in, it's kind of all willy-nilly and kind of almost, dangerous in a way, just to start being like, all right, boom, ka-chow. You're an investigator. You know what you're doing. You're qualified.
But how is that any more dangerous than what they would have done had they not taken the course? They would have just gone into it anyway.
Well, I think it offers them a level of legitimacy if people don't know that it's just a sign that they've done something, that they've taken a course in it. And I think that they are more knowledgeable at the end of any of these. But it's the weight that it might hold in people's minds that is, I think, dangerous.
Here's how I look at it, okay? There's 30 people in that classroom taking a certification course in the paranormal. Those are 30 people that want to get out there and conduct investigations into the unknown. And those 30 people are going to do it anyway. So if they're going to get a little bit of information first, then that's a great thing. The problem is I guess the real issue here is how it's being conducted. And how these courses are being offered. You have some courses that you can go and take it in an adult ed facility or a high school after hours or whatever, and they charge you $25 to come and take the course. Or there's other courses where you go and they charge you $400 to take the course. Then it's in the value to the consumer of, which one do you want to pay? Which one do you want to get? Because the guy who's teaching the $20 course is no more qualified than the guy who's teaching the $400 course. They both have the same level of experience in the field. It's all in what you're going to get for your value out of there. And I think that's where the problem really lies, is the guy who's going out there and offering these courses for free because he can't get anybody to pay him for it, or the guy who's doing it and only charging $20 because he doesn't really care about making money, he only really cares about helping people, are resenting the person that's charging the $400 for it because they're making money off what they see as being what should be knowledge given to every investigator.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's the problem. That's the problem in the paranormal field with everything that we have going on, is it's all just boils down to one thing: jealousy. Because everybody feels like they're an equal to everybody else, as they should, because, we are all equals. But you're not all equal in experience. You're not all equal in knowledge. And what all it boils down to is just jealousy. You got one group that's jealous of another group because they've been on television. One group's jealous of another group because they get the opportunity to go out and do speaking engagements. And it's ridiculous. It really is. Just go forward with your head down, do your own thing, and whatever comes to you will come to you.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's another aspect of it, and whether it's investigating from, a pseudoscience-based point of view, or whether it's investigating from, more esoteric kind of things or approach, people, it touches upon something on them, whether it's their religion, whether it's their personal belief system, and any time you start messing with that, that's when people get the most agitated, the most willing to jump, and the most passionate. So I do definitely think there's a high level of resentment and jealousy, but I also think it has something to do with people genuinely being like, this is not the way it's supposed to be done, because this is my, it's as if you are a firm believer in Christianity, and so you actually despise people on TV who are asking for money, televangelists.
Right.
And I would come back with, however crooked some of those guys might be, there are definitely genuine people out there. But more to the point, those people who are being healed or helped or saved feel that healing and that helping and that saving. And so didn't you just fulfill what you were supposed to fulfill for them, even if it's an empty thing, because you've given them what they want? It just didn't necessarily come from, on high.
Look, but Dave, I know you pay attention to a lot of these sites, and I'm just going to ask you, we got about 3 minutes left in the show, and I'm just going to ask you this, just outright here. You read a lot of their posts, you see a lot of what's going on, and I'm not saying that you condemn or condone what they're doing, but let's face it, some of them, they're just bitching. That's all they're doing. They're just bitching.
There is a lot of that, yeah. There's a lot of people that just have nothing better to do but complain. I think a lot of it's, like we were saying, it stems from the fact that, you try to offer just a little bit of advice or something, and there's a lot of people that are closed-minded on the opposite side of it, too. They don't want to hear that their photos are not paranormal, that there could be an explanation for this or an explanation for that there. How do I put this? If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, that kind of thing. Yeah. And it's not hard to see sometimes, the people that want to get their face on TV. And I don't think that a lot of it has to do with jealousy so much as, if you're going to sell yourself, that's fine. That's great. But, when there's the poor woman who wants to know what's going on in her house, might be not benefiting from what really needs to be done. Like I said before, having things really looked at versus I'm going to guarantee your house is haunted, then I'm going to...
ABC News covers the world. WBSM covers your neighborhood. AM 1420. WBSM.
That's new. All right, well, we are just about out of time anyway, why don't we call it a show for tonight? We'll be back next week. Thanks, guys, for joining us and for debating this topic with us. And I'm sure we can continue it on Spooky Crossroads Wednesday at 10 o'clock.
I would love to.
And stay tuned next week. Chris, have we confirmed that we're going to be having Derek on next week?
I have not confirmed. I've sent emails and some messages out to Derek, and I haven't gotten a complete confirmation yet.
Okay.
But I can tell you that we are also having a man by the name of Alex Hodge come on.
Okay.
And it fits right in with what we're talking about because he has just started this massive website, which is calling for paranormal unification, and he's kind of going about it a different way. So it'll be interesting to talk to him in the second hour next week.
All right, excellent. All right, so join us next week when we come back for more paranormal talk. I haven't checked the Red Sox schedule, but hopefully we will be on at our regular time, 10 p.m., or actually a little bit after. And you can always listen to the previous episodes on SpookySouthcoast.com. We're also up on YouTube, and on YouTube you can catch the last episode of Spooky Crossroads if you missed it. We do want you to be there Wednesday nights and be live and interactive with us, but if you do miss it, you can catch it up on YouTube and hear Chris and I uncensored as we talk about the show. We get a little bit deeper into the topics that we talk about here. We tell some of the backstories of Spooky South Coast, and we also take the conversation into places we couldn't take it on the radio because we'd probably get thrown off the air.
So you can also check out the spooky endings from last week.
Yeah, that was a very strange ending, came out of nowhere there. And right when we started talking about that kind of thing. So check it out. Definitely want to listen to that. And it's a good way to keep up with, Spooky South Coast, give you a little bit of background info, inside info. And, hey, it's a midweek fix for you, too, so you don't have to wait till Saturday night. So check that out, Spooky Crossroads, Wednesday at 10. Of course, Spirit Connections is on at 8 as well. So until next week, for Chris, for Dave, I'm Tim Weisberg. Stay spooktacular.
First with local news, talk, and sports. This is WBSM New Bedford, AM 1420. WBSM, a Cumulus station.
From ABC News, I'm Todd. And caught at the U.S. border in Washington State, a Canadian armored car guard who allegedly gunned down 4 of his colleagues while they were making a delivery to a bank ATM machine. ABC's Jackie Rosen has more from Toronto.
The 21-year-old had been the subject of a Canada-wide manhunt since Friday. Earlier on Saturday, his mother, Sandy, released a statement pleading for her son to turn himself in and, quote, end this without further bloodshed.
21-year-old Travis Baumgartner turned on his crew just after midnight Friday at the University of Alberta, killing 3. One person was killed, another seriously hurt in a stage collapse before a Radiohead concert in Toronto, Canada, Saturday. Officials say 2 others were treated for minor injuries, all the victims believed to be crew members who were setting up the stage. No word yet on what caused the accident. More from ABC's Chuck Sievertson.
There was a slight breeze.
The weather was clear and pretty calm at Toronto's Downs View Park, says Alexandra Halbert, who is working nearby.
Nothing that you would think would cause the stage to fall over, but there was that breeze.
It was too early for a crowd to amass, but some fans were there.
It just sounded like a lot of thunder and like sheet metal just like falling. It was really crazy.
The center of the stage fell through and pulled down, parts of the side middle with it.
The Radiohead concert was canceled, promoters promising refunds. Chuck Sievertson, ABC News.
Good news and bad news. Saturday in the High Park fire in northern Colorado, officials say the fire now 45% contained, but over 180 homes have been destroyed, making it the most destructive wildfire in state history. Fire Information Officer Christy Wumpkis.
The number of homes destroyed jumped to 181. And that's not that we lost any homes today or yesterday, but firefighters are finally able to get into some of these areas where the fire activity has lessened and take a look at what's on the ground.
And an avalanche on Mount McKinley swept a Japanese climbing team off a hill as they tried to descend on a rope line, leaving 4 presumed dead. 1 survived. This is ABC News.
Have you heard? Proactive is better than ever. Stay tuned for a 1,000,000-bottle giveaway. Do you have troubled skin, acne? Well, we have great news. With Proactive, your acne can heal, and you can prevent new breakouts from happening. Be one of the first to try it by giving us a call at 1-800-337-5984. Because we're going to let 1,000,000 people try Proactive risk-free and also receive our legendary refining mask and green tea moisturizer free if you call right now. You heard it. Be one of the first to try better than ever Proactive solution. You'll receive a 60-day risk-free trial, plus a free refining mask and green tea moisturizer. Call 1-800-337-5984. This is our best radio offer. Get your risk-free 60-day trial of Proactive plus 2 free extras. Go to getproactive.com or call 1-800-337-5984. That's 1-800-337-5984.
Actress Kate Winslet is among the celebs who have been granted an honor by Britain's Queen. ABC's Tom Rivers in London has more.
Kate Winslet gets a CBE, or Commander of the Order of the British Empire, for what they call her titanic contribution to the arts. Meanwhile, actor and director Kenneth Branagh gets a knighthood.
I feel very humble about it. I feel elated about it. It would be an amazing thing at any time. In the Jubilee year, I'm sure anybody else who's had the good fortune to be recognized would feel as I do. It's very, very special.
Honors are bestowed twice a year here by the Queen on New Year's Day and on her official birthday. Tom Rivers, ABC News, London.
Wildfires do more than just damage land and property. They can also threaten fish. ABC's Dave Schreiber explains.
As crews continue to battle blazes in the west, there is another battle going on. Under the waters that run through New Mexico, biologists are trying to save the Gila trout. Ash and sediment from the fires can be deadly to the fish. They are using electroshock devices to stun the trout just temporarily so they can be quickly scooped up into a net. Then it's onto a truck that takes them to a hatchery in northern New Mexico. Dave Schreiber, ABC News.
And with 1 round to go at the U.S. Open in San Francisco, it's Graham McDowell and Jim Furyk sharing the lead. Tiger Woods had trouble on the 3rd round. He's 5 shots back. This is ABC News.
Do you have unfiled tax returns or owe the IRS or state more than $10,000? If you don't take action now, your tax problem is only going to get worse. Seizure of property, bank levies, wage garnishments, and potential criminal prosecution. Call the experts at U.S. Tax Shield for help at 1-800-334-5070. Our tax advisors will review your case for free, inform you of your rights, and give you a guaranteed quote. And we have an A+ rating with the BBB, so get protected. Call U.S. Tax Shield now at 1-800-334-5070.
Todd Ant, ABC News.
This is the sound of a brand new outdoor grill being hurled off a 20-story building. Now a stylish glass coffee table. An electric guitar. These are the things you could enjoy, all cast into oblivion. Because when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have bought with it. Visit EnergySavers.gov and get tips on how to save energy and money. Then do things like switch to Energy Star light bulbs or Energy Star appliances, and you could save hundreds of dollars a year. So this doesn't happen to the recliner you've had your eye on, or this to the treadmill on your wish list, or this to the shiny new bike your kid's been asking for. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
And now, America's #1 show on pop culture and politics. This is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth. A great day for some fundamental agreement between President Obama and Mitt Romney, both campaigning in Ohio, both acknowledging that our economic situation at the moment stinks. So the question is not, are we in trouble? The question is, how much trouble are we in, and what's the right way to get out of it? If anybody says the right way of it is to completely obliterate government, well, they're wrong. If anybody says the right way to get out of it is to hugely grow government, I think most people would agree they're absolutely wrong. But those two impulses have always been part of the American dynamic and of the American debate. So argues E.J. Dionne. You know him as one of the most prominent commentators on the left. He is a nationally syndicated columnist. He's also a former Rhodes Scholar, an author of several best-selling books. His most recent book is called Our Divided Political Heart, The Battle for the American Idea in an Age of Discontent. EJ, congratulations on the book.
Well, thank you very much, and I really appreciate being on your show. Disagreement is one of the joys of freedom, and it's good that you have regular conversations with people who don't agree with you on everything but respect you.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, and back at you.
Thank
And
you.
I'm glad that you're one of the people on the left who's willing to engage in some of these arguments. But before we get to that, I found myself underlining a great deal of your book that I agreed with. And particularly your idea, which you lay out at the very beginning and then emphasize again at the end, that those people who say America's down and out, that we're finished, that this is the worst period in American history, that everything is bleak, they are way, way overselling the declinism. And I agree with that.
Yeah, no, I believe that passionately. I'm glad we do agree on that. First, I think my favorite line on America is from Winston Churchill, who once said, Americans always do the right thing after first exhausting all the other possibilities. And I think that we are very good at self-correction. Tocqueville noted that about us. It was one of the things he admired about us. And so the book talks about decline at the beginning as one of the underlying, as a central part of our politics for the last 5 or 10 years or so, but it's very much an anti-declinist book. And I think many of the declinists exaggerate how strong we were before. We've always had competitors in the world, and the notion that the United States is about to fold up and become an unimportant country in the world, I just think is wrong. Unless we make so many colossally large missteps, I suppose that could happen. But I do not think it's inevitable or likely.
1-800-955-1776 is our phone number. You argue in the book, and this I think is probably going to be its most controversial element, that you argue, first of all, that there's always been a tension in America between an individual impulse, an individualism impulse, and an impulse for more communal solutions. If you want from relying entirely on a free enterprise system to a more mixed system. But you suggest that we have had for a very, very long time until recently a great consensus in terms of a balanced approach. And we've actually moved away from that consensus. Explain.
Yeah, and I don't want to belabor the history too much, although I do love the American story. And one of the things I'm trying to do in this book is that I think political progressives, of which I would count as one, have not engaged the American story enough. And I would like to have an argument with some of my friends on the right about what that story means. You know, in my view, the long trajectory of America is a trajectory of balance between individualism and community government and the marketplace, and that the Gilded Age, from roughly the end of the Civil War to the beginning of Teddy Roosevelt's presidency, was an exception to that balance, and that the progressives and populists brought us back to balance, and that we've been governed under a long consensus ever since. Even Ronald Reagan did not try to disrupt this consensus, as President Obama pointed out in his speech today, and I talk about in the book. Reagan did try to save Social Security. He was even willing to raise taxes to do so. I think now a lot of my conservative friends have abandoned this tradition of balance and are pushing a much more one-sided anti-government view of how America succeeded and how we should go forward.
Okay,
And
give me an example. What's one of the areas where you feel that conservatives no longer push a balanced view of America or the American project?
Well, I think, for example, the effort to judge how well we're doing by what percentage of GDP we are spending on government at a given time without, for example, taking into account the fact that we happen to be going through the baby boom retirement right now. And I wish devoutly we could abolish the aging of the baby boom. That would help me a lot, but we can't. I think other examples are a kind of just broad brush attack on government regulation. Repeal Obamacare. Yeah, your friends say replace, but the emphasis is on repeal. Repeal Dodd-Frank. Cut back on what EPA does. In other words, I think the language of the right and many of the proposals, I think we could argue all show about the Ryan budget and how much that cuts back on government.
Okay, wait, just to back up for a moment, because EJ, you make the point, and you show this in your book. The book, by the way, is fascinating, and it's provocative, and it's well written, and it's entertaining. I've said that. It's now called Our Divided...
I want everybody to remember that, of course.
It's Our Divided Political Heart. The subtitle is The Battle for the American Idea in an Age of Discontent. And EJ, by the way, is going to be speaking right here in Seattle this Sunday. We have information about it. We've posted on our site, so people who want to come meet him in person and get a signed copy of his new book can do so over at Town Hall. But, EJ, you talk in the book about the great burst of reform, what Otis Graham, I believe it was, called the Encore for Reform in the FDR administration. And then you make the point that when Eisenhower came in with Republican majorities in both houses of Congress, he didn't try to repeal the New Deal. He basically accepted it. And you talk about the idea that right now Republicans are not talking about accepting any aspect of what Obama has done during his first 3.5 years. They're talking about repeal. Here's the difference, and it's something I don't think you sufficiently acknowledge with all respect. When Roosevelt achieved his reforms, he had 4 terms he was elected to. He served a full 3, and his reforms were very popular. Social Security passed with a majority of Republican votes in both houses when it was up for vote in 1935. And so Eisenhower was not going to try to repeal something the American people had accepted and embraced. The truth is, the American people have not, and you know this, accepted and embraced Obamacare, and certainly not the individual mandate.
2 things about that. One is when you talk about Republicans voting overwhelmingly for Social Security, there were a lot of efforts to derail it earlier, and as you know, a lot of people can vote on final passage for something while trying to keep it from getting there. The second is the Republican Party was very different. There were many, many more moderate and even liberal and left-wing Republicans in Congress. Some of the strongest supporters of the New Deal were liberal Republicans who fought the conservative wing. Secondly, Eisenhower's nomination, as you know, was very contested. There were, for a long time, Republicans who opposed Eisenhower for accommodating the New Deal. The third thing is you are right in the short term about Obama's health plan not being popular, and there are a lot of reasons I think that happened, not the least of which is the administration did not do a very good job selling it, and it got all caught up in very complicated congressional politics.
Yeah, we all
but when
agree
you look
with
at the specific elements of it, if I could just quickly finish, most elements of that are very popular. The individual mandate is not popular, but the things you can do because of the individual mandate are popular. So that I just think that Republicans right now are really talking about undercutting some long-standing programs, including Medicare and Social Security, and that's where I think they are not following the Eisenhower model now.
What would E.J. Dionne do to fix Medicare?
What would I do? Well, I would try first of all, I would get everyone into the healthcare system in some way or fashion, and I'm pretty open.
I'm not saying. Well, hold on. I'm not talking about medical care in general. I'm talking about the specific Medicare for people over 65.
The reason why I started there is because I don't think we will have effective cost containment either in insurance bought on the private side or the insurance that comes through government unless we get everybody into a one system. And I'm not talking about one single payer system. I'm talking about a system where everyone is covered. And then we do have to begin to figure out ways like reimbursing for illnesses rather than for each kind of treatment. There are a lot of ways in which
we will be back with more on that and more on America's divided political heart. That's the title of E.J. Dionne's new book. We'll also talk about his column saying that government isn't the problem, government's the solution. We'll be back with E.J. Dion and your calls.
1-800-955-1776. Michael Medved.
You won't believe what mysterious and intriguing family facts get left out over the years. Are you curious to learn what your past holds? Then try Ancestry.com today, and you'll have 14 days to uncover your past generations free. Ancestry.com is the world's largest family history resource, with over 9 billion historical documents online, from birth, marriage, death, and military records to immigration documents, even past census information. It's limitless on what you can find. Visit TryAncestry.com today and get 14 days free. That's right, a full 2 weeks free to make your own discoveries. With over 34 million family trees and 115 million pictures, scanned documents, and written stories, we dare you. See how far you can go back. 1800s, 1600s? Visit TryAncestry.com and discover the world's largest online family history resource. Free for 14 days. Visit TryAncestry.com. That's TRY Ancestry.com.
Are you putting your money into an IRA, pension, or 401k? Then I hope you're prepared to lose 30, 40, 50% or more of your retirement savings, because it's not a question of if the market crashes again. It's a question of when. It's going to happen. Did you know there is a way you can protect and grow your wealth safely and predictably every single year? The people using this approach didn't lose a penny when the market crashed in 2000 or 2008, and they won't lose a penny in the next crash. In fact, their money will continue to grow safely year in and year out, even when stocks, real estate, and other investments tumble. A free report detailing this savings program is now available. This free report shows how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and wealth-building power without risking your retirement in the Wall Street casino. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement. It far outperforms any IRA or 401k. To get this free report, visit bankonyourself.com. That's bankonyourself.com. Bankonyourself.com.
Stay tuned for a $1 million dream body announcement.
Do you want to lose weight? How about toning and sculpting your entire body in just 6 to 8 minutes a day? You've seen it on TV with Chuck Norris and Christy Brinkley. They love the Total Gym. Well, we're out to prove once and for all that the Total Gym melts off the pounds better than anything else on the market in just 6 to 8 minutes a day. So if you want to try it, give us a call, because we're going to let up to 1 million people from across the nation try the Total Gym for just $1. If you call right now, 1-800-746-0084. That's right. The first callers right now from this station get to try the famous Total Gym for 30 days for just $1. The Total Gym will have you in the best shape of your life in just 6 to 8 minutes a day. Whether you want to firm and slenderize or build and sculpt your body, the Total Gym is the one machine that does it all. The first 50 callers from this station right now can try Total Gym for just $1, and shipping is free. Call now, 1-800-746-0084. That's 1-800-746-0084. 1-800-746-0084.
I will never forget the day my son Jeremy told me he hated me and slammed the door in my face. I'm behavioral therapist Janet Lehman. Behavior problems can turn the child you love and your life into a nightmare. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, the step-by-step program that shows you how to fix the worst behavior problems and get your child to respect and listen to you again. No matter what the behavior, defiance, backtalk, angry outbursts, disrespect, we can help you stop it. Now you can get the Total Transformation for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. You can keep it forever for free.
Limited number of free programs available. Call now, 1-800-801-9691. 1-800-801-9691. That's 1.